Welcome to the Gay Buddhist Forum, where teachers from all schools of Buddhism offer their perspectives on the Dharma and its application in modern times, especially for LGBTQI audiences. These talks are offered freely to the world and made possible by appreciative listeners. If you would like to support our efforts to share the Dharma with underserved audiences, please visit gaybuddhist.org. There you can donate, find a list of upcoming speakers, or enjoy many hundreds of these recorded talks dating back to 1996.
Good morning, welcome back to the Gay Buddhist Fellowship. Our tradition is to go around and introduce ourselves first, and then we will hear from our speaker. My name is Tom.
I'm George.
Aaron.
My name is Cass.
Ricardo.
My name is Douglas.
Peter. Clint.
I'm Jim.
My name is Ray.
I'm Lee Robbins.
I'm Jerry.
Richard.
I'm Jay.
My name is Michael.
I'm Peter.
Dan.
I'm Carl.
I'm Wally.
My name is Harley.
My name is Mark.
Lies.
My name is Roy.
Jeff.
My name is Jerry. Morgan.
My name is David.
My name is Jerry.
My name is Tage.
I'm James.
Wilson. Great. Welcome, everyone. So this month, it turns out, we are having all speakers from the Sangha, and we will have one open discussion. But the month is solid with people from our midst. And today we have the delight to hear from John Galloway. John, welcome.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you all. It's really interesting to sort of sit here and see all of you because you're all beautiful. I'd try it sometime, I recommend it. If Roy or somebody ever asked you to do a Dharma duo, you say yes. This is great. Bombing, who was the other half of the Dharma duo, fell ill with the flu, so he sends his regrets and regards to the Sangha. So let's keep him in our thoughts because he's feeling kind of poopy. So let's send out some good wishes. So I don't know if this makes a Dharma solo or a Dharma Salah or a Dharma Go-Go or what this is going to turn into. I have no idea. What did you call it? A Dharma Uno. Oh, why did I think of that? I kind of like that. Uno. I was in a meeting with Gangaji when she was last in town up in Mill Valley, and when she sat down and just kind of smiled at everybody, it was very clear that she had no agenda. She had nothing to say. And I've kind of treated it that way. You know, I kind of watched my left brain, methodical Virgo, type A, super hyper gerbil on a wheel mind all week say, you better prepare and make some notes for this. But there was, when I would come in contact with kind of a more still part of myself, I would see that wasn't relevant at all. And I remembered sitting with Gangaji, and she said everything she had to say in that smile. And that's really sort of sat with me this week to remember that there really is nothing to do, that I spend so much of my time thinking that John has this agenda and John has to make something happen, rather than being happened. Which is, I think, a lot of what I want to talk about this morning is just that getting out of my own way and getting out of the place where I feel like I'm something special, where I have to really do something. There is doing. I do have to show up. I have to go to my job every day. I have bills to pay. I have, these responsibilities, but to see that what underlies that experience? What is the ground underneath that? When when Roy asked us to, I guess, just kind of talk about our experience and our practice and kind of how we came to where we are, I kind of resist that because I don't like talking about like my history because it feels like a story. It doesn't feel very authentic. But at the same time, you kind of also have to start somewhere. It's sort of like going on a date with somebody and they want to ask everything all about you. It's like, I don't know. I don't want to talk about me. So I find that I get uncomfortable going on a date. So it's kind of like I'm going on a date with the Sangha this morning. We're getting to know each other and have tea. It's kind of cool. So I did give my left brain a break, and I did write some things down, and then I realized, I woke up this morning at about 7, and I kind of went, "Oh, you want to talk about that too? Oh, remember to say that." So anyway, we'll see where it goes. It's kind of funny. I also sat on the sofa this week when I was just kind of sitting there pondering and thinking about today and realizing that it was kind of like I'm a little bit of an armchair Buddhist in the sense that I don't really identify as Buddhist, and I've had people ask me, and I'm like, "Oh, I'm going to the Gay Buddhist Fellowship." "Well, are you a Buddhist?" And I'm like, "I don't know what I am, honey." It's also interesting to see how through the various teachings that I've been involved in, how much I do relate to Buddhism, and particularly, kind of the flavor, if you will, of how we come together here. I relate to very much, particularly out of my practice and experiences with and teaching a method called Bruein, which I'll talk about, which has been kind of a foundation stone in my own personal practice over the last decade plus, over about the last 14 years. At the very, very top of my notes, for some reason, it says Rue McClanahan, Blanche Devereaux. So somehow Blanche is going to show up today, I guess. I spent a lot of time yesterday watching The Golden Girls because Rue McClanahan passed away 2 years ago today. So I am making June 3rd Blanche Devereaux Day. So that's at the top of my notes. Because I'm putting the gay back in Gay Buddhist Fellowship, apparently. Not that it wasn't there before, but it wouldn't hurt to have a little Blanche in my day. Maybe I should have worn a red dress. Maybe that would have been a little more appropriate. I'll just start and see where it goes. It's so interesting for me to kind of think back on, like, wow, how did I get here from growing up in a Southern Baptist fundamentalist Christian family? That's kind of entertaining to think about sometimes. And I do it from a place of gratitude, not out of, I think I had a lot of judgment of that throughout my life. And really I just kind of have a place of gratitude that, like, of course that's where my family was. Of course that's where I came from. Not like treating it as a curse, but like, of course that was exactly what I needed. And I think that's kind of another theme of what I want to talk about this morning is, like, we are given exactly what we need, no matter how our mind interprets that. And my mind ascribes things like, that's good, that's bad, that's a horrible circumstance, I'm so thankful that happened, and we go through these various identifications with our experiences, but seeing that really all of those circumstances are food for our practice, and food for our own growth. So it's through that understanding that I really, stop seeing having grown up in the Southern Baptist Church as a curse, and just seeing that, like, that was a lot of preparation, whether it was through rebellion and resistance and hell raising or how it came about, to then come to the practice where I am now, so that it's actually supportive rather than this thing that, like, I have to, like, cast off, and it's a lot of baggage that I need to purge somehow. Which is where another one of my family members takes it. So I left the church at about age 13, and just decided one day that I didn't want to go. And woke up one morning and kind of had this thought of, like, does God really care what I wear to church? Because I really don't want to wear a suit today. That's ridiculous. And so I went back to bed and decided that I was going to go to church in blue jeans, and my father wasn't having that. And he kind of beat me around the room a bit. And I thought, well, that's not the relationship that I want to have to God. And so from there, found myself in a number of different, like esoteric teachings and I sorry I can't attend church today, Dad, but I'm busy becoming a lesbian and practicing witchcraft, as the bumper sticker goes. Maybe it's the other way around. But I was busy becoming a lesbian and practicing witchcraft, so it's actually kind of serious. And it was later in college when I came to Berkeley to go to school that I discovered a body work called Bruein. And the Bruein Center is over in Oakland, and I've been practicing there for about 14 years. So really that is kind of the cornerstone of my daily practice, as it were, and of my moving meditation, as I call it. I'm trying to remember the experience I had when I was sitting here this morning as we were sitting. I remember at one point I just kind of came to the breath, and I just kind of registered the inhalation and exhalation, and my mind was quiet. And then all of a sudden, as though a 4-alarm fire went off, it was like, what am I going to say? What am I going to say? I have no idea what I'm going to say. And just seeing that was how the mind became reactive. And I was talking with a mentor and kind of teacher mentor yesterday. We meet by phone every week. She lives in Colorado, and I had this question for her about I guess sometimes I call it channeling, which is sort of like when we're in that space and we speak very clearly. Have you ever had that experience where you're speaking to somebody and all of a sudden you kind of back up and go, was somebody recording that? Because that was good. And everybody in the room kind of goes, wow. And I was sort of interested in that, like what actually underlies that? Like what does it take for me to not really be me, to not be identified in that situation so that information can come through? Or, we sometimes talk about this phrase like the small, still voice, that like when we're quiet enough, we can sort of hear that guidance. And so I really had an interest in that conversation to see, where is that stillness? Where is that silence? Because my mind is so active, all the time busy, all the time diarrhea of the mouth and constipation of the brain, as my father used to call it. And just seeing that I wasn't able to, at that moment, come into stillness and really kind of be guided, as it were. And I saw when I was sitting here that after that kind of 4-alarm fire went off, that there was information available, which is that you don't have to say anything, you just have to be said. Like let spirit or whatever it is, however you want to relate to it, just let that speak. And so I had some question about how to do that. And the answer was, don't do that. And then kind of this phrase came through very strongly, which was be the bodhisattva of the moment. What would it be like right now to drop John, to drop Blanche Devereaux, to drop whatever identification you have, and just receive what's given, to actually be present, not as a concept. We talk about be present, or being present, but to really have that embodied, felt experience. And so that kind of became my guide. And so I realized, like, really what I say is kind of almost irrelevant. That what's important to me in my practice is what underlies kind of the quality of my experience and being present. But it is kind of a trip because that really was not the emphasis in growing up in the church. You know, the emphasis was very much external, and there was kind of this external liturgy and this external God and this external, kind of set of codes and strictures. So I really don't know at what point that shifted. And in fact, I would love, in sort of like a dialogue here in a bit, to kind of hear other people's experiences of really kind of like, come sit on the couch, because I don't know that I have that much more to say. Really, like, I love hearing from other people about kind of how that awareness entered in of like wow, I can actually do that. I can actually sit and meditate. I can bring my attention to my breath. I can nurture this one rather than constantly being focused on getting or putting out or doing, because I think it was probably not until I got into college that I really had that. There was nothing in my family history or in my school or anything that really supported that taste and that knowing. I didn't grow up in a family of yogis. Probably the exact 180 from that. So I'm really interested to hear your experiences about kind of how you came to that awareness and that understanding. So one thing I wanted to bring to the group out of my practice of doing Brima, there are all these different exercises that we do. It's really, Brima is a partner body work, and so it's really kind of things that you do with the body and with body work, with the aim of being present and bringing the attention back to the practitioner, not as giving somebody a massage or giving somebody a healing session, but really bringing the emphasis on being present. Sometimes we call it the art of being present, which is, in my experience, is actually true, because I see that I'm so focused when I'm working with somebody or when I'm doing something at my job in the office that I'm so focused on what's going on outside. But to see that I can participate in my daily activities while having an emphasis on the body, while having an emphasis on being present. And so the system of that particular teaching is derived to bring that emphasis while using the body. So not having the practice of being present be something that I do when I'm just sitting still on the cushion, but that it can also be when I'm, taking a drink of water or making dinner or whatever my activity is, or even when I'm in a conversation, I can register my tone of voice so that I bring awareness back, kind of that distinction that I drew between having my attention be focused externally and having my attention focused internally, to really support that inner attention while participating in the activities of my daily life. So there's a really simple one that has a name. It's called Breath Begins in the Prime Source. So I invite you to do this with, and the emphasis and the direction in Brima is always on the comfort of the body being comfortable. So if something isn't comfortable, always modify what we're doing. And we can stay seated right where we are. And so it begins by bringing the left hand palm out at the lower part of the back. And the right hand just drapes over the left shoulder. And just leaning the right hand into the shoulder. You give your body a leaning motion. And moving the hand from the next shoulder down to the end of the shoulder at the arm. Just let each movement be complete. And then when the hand reaches the upper arm, bring the left hand to hold on the abdomen and continue leaning down the arm incrementally to the hand on the abdomen. With each lean, just registering that that's the only thing that the body is doing in this moment. And then after the lean on the hand, brushing from the next shoulder down the arm and off the hand 3 times. And now the right hand comes behind the back. The left hand is on the right shoulder, at the neck, and we're going to repeat that on this side. And with the arm, bringing the hand to the front, the abdomen. Letting all of you participate in this movement. Body, mind, feelings, everything is participating. And brushing 3 times. And then just brushing the hands to the knees. And take a moment to register your experience. Let's do one more short one. This one is called Between Inhalation and Exhalation, a Moment of Being Awake. And so the thumb and the forefingers come to hold on the earlobes of each ear, just lightly letting the arms hang. Taking an inhalation. And then as you exhale, letting the thumb and forefingers just slide off the ears, arms back to the knees. Again, registering that your body is sitting and breathing. So one way that I see that something that simple supports me during my day is to come out of the busyness that I often find myself in, to just bring that attention back to having inner attention. Because in my own experience, I find that that's where I really get my sustenance from, is when my attention is here. And I find that just in my own practice that doing, even something that simple when I'm waiting for the bus, or if I'm waiting on a client phone call, to just create a little gap in my day where that's possible. So I've been teaching Brima for about 13 years now. And so I kind of approach, being here and speaking the same way I do when I'm instructing in a Brima class, which is always taking the posture of a student, never feeling like I know something, or that I'm gonna give something. It was interesting when I walked to the restroom during our break here and came back. There was kind of a thought in the mind was like, yeah, but just have one good nugget in there. Have one good little nugget, something good. That, and I saw that. I saw that was really just from the place of thought. There was really no sincerity in it. It was just John having this idea. And my practice of Brima and of meditation have really kind of laid the kind of a space for me to explore all of that in. Again, in growing up, that not throwing the baby out with the bathwater. I think there were lots of things in my college education or spiritual upbringing or religious upbringing that really helped sort of lay the foundation for that. But I realized in sitting with my teacher at the Bruein Center that experience has to be self-verified. Like I really learned like never to sort of take someone else's authority, which is very, very different than the Southern Baptist Church, which is like, the minister is the authority and, or the Pope is the authority or whatever. But seeing that the authority for my experience comes from within. And learning to trust that and really learning to trust that it's not that it is something that I can work with over time, but at the same time, I don't have to do all of these things and then meditate and then eat this type of yogurt and then go to the gym and then I will become enlightened. One of my teachers calls that working by negation, which is the idea that I'm not enlightened in this moment, and so that by following some particular rigmarole to get to somewhere, I'm kind of off course. So my experience, like when I was sitting this morning, was to just see to be the bodhisattva. The moment meant now. It meant right now. So in doing exercises like the two that we just did, that's kind of one of my playgrounds where I get to play with that. Another is dancing. I love to dance, and I will take up the entire dance floor. When I do so, which means I can't go to clubs that are tightly packed, like Badlands, because I just need a lot of room to move. Because it is in a way kind of like Brima, where there's a lot of swinging of the arms or whatnot, and I really find that brings my attention back when I'm fully in my body. So I invite you to try that. I have a note on my fridge at home that says, drop what you're doing and dance. So I find that helpful. Like if I'm working from home and I'm really in the middle of some project and my client is being obstinate or whatnot, I'll walk into the kitchen and be like, oh. So, another thing that I was really thinking about yesterday afternoon was this idea of like, well, where does everybody else in the group come from? Like, kind of what are your experiences? So I'm putting all the future Dharma duos on my calendar for sure, because I'm really interested in hearing. There's so many different paths and ways that we come to our practice that it's really finding what works for you, like what really puts you sort of like right in that zone, and it's so interesting to talk to people that have just some of the. I'm just like, you do what? Like I've talked to people that are like, country line dancing does it for me. And they're like, when I go to Sundance, I'm on the floor and I'm God. Like I am in the zone. I am right there. Country line dancing is not the one for me, but it is so interesting to be with people when they're in their activity or when they're in their practice that brings them, because they glow. I've seen people just like literally like they have light shining out of their pores, and it's really kind of fun. I don't know that I have that much more. Let me see. Yeah, why don't we do this? Why don't we do one more of those Brimas, and then we'll talk. Yeah. So if you feel comfortable standing where you are, please come standing. You can also do this one sitting as well. And the name of it is Heaven is in This Moment. So bringing kind of loose fists crossed underneath each arm. Just letting the arms be relaxed. And as we inhale, we're going to bring the arms up as the head leans back. Exhaling, we're going to lower the arms and lower the head. Let's do this 2 more times. Stay with the activity of the body. Inhaling up. Exhaling down. Letting the hands open, still underneath the arms, letting the head come forward. Maybe 1 full breath. And brushing your hands down to your sides. And just take a moment to feel the support of the floor, supporting your weight. Feeling the support of this room and this atmosphere. And then coming back to sitting. So I want to thank you for your presence and for your practice. And from here I wanted to let's talk. If there was anything that kind of came up, an insight, something that has been going on for you this week that you wanted to bring, or a question, or something it may not be a question for me, it just may be a question that you have that's really alive. Are all good here.
Well, I'm just curious, you talked earlier about your history, about being raised in the Fundamentalist Baptist Southern Church. And it just seems like there's a lot of information, a lot of examples coming right now in the news lately about really a horrible situation. Like one fundamentalist preacher said, if your 5-year-old child is acting gay, punch it out. Another wants to put us in concentration camps, another one wants to kill us all. In Oklahoma, there's one where there's like a video of a 4-year-old boy singing a really homophobic song in the church, and everybody applauding that.
Yeah.
And so I see this, and I just picture it. This is a really hateful, quote spiritual path.
Mm-hmm.
And I wondered whether that jives with your experience as a fundamental. Growing up in the fundamentalist household.
Yeah, thank you. I really appreciate that question. I thank God every time I think about that, because I was not. My family was very loving, very supportive, not super religious, not super on the fundamentalist end of the scale. My particular church, it was a First Baptist church, which I think they tend to be very, they're kind of like the vanilla version of the Baptists in a way. I've been to services at churches where the preacher is foaming at the mouth and jumping over the podium, because that's the channel that they tend to be on. I don't think they're like that in their everyday life, but when they get behind the pulpit, they just spew. Thankfully, my experience didn't jibe with that, but there was a lot of racist, bigoted, homophobic slurs. It was normalized. I think I carry a lot of internalized homophobia as a result of that. I think it definitely affects how I show up or don't show up in relationships with other people. At the same time, I see it now. I was in... there's been a lot of time this week kind of thinking about and working with kind of like the condition of the world and the condition of the planet, and just kind of being a little immobilized by it. Like, wow, this place is up. Like, I don't get it. There's a lot going on, like what you're talking about, or this preacher in North Carolina who thinks we should all be put in concentration camps and whatnot. It's a hard one to reckon with having acceptance and compassion and understanding in the face of that kind of vitriol. It really is a ripe place for practice. I went into a store this week and somebody cut in front of me in line, and just the way they did it was whatever. I just went right to that level of like, I'm going to be better than them. I'm going to one-up them. I'm not going to react. It was still the same kind of posture. And at some point in that experience of kind of having this conflict with people in a store over something absolutely and utterly trivial, just kind of seeing like, wow, of course this is the human condition. This is the state of things. It doesn't I don't necessarily feel like I have the power to change it or that I have any business changing it, but like this is the world that I'm observing and participating in. And at that point it becomes my responsibility to either react to it, which I did, or to respond to it, which is to not engage it. If there's something that I can do outwardly, kind of in a manifesting way, to counter that or to stop that or to be an example of a different way of being, I'll do it. I'm probably not going to fly to North Carolina and hunt this guy down, but if I'm in North Carolina, I'll probably go spit on his church or something. I don't know. I really had no idea how I would respond in that situation, but
because I always struggle with this because I see this and it enrages me, and I start returning hate with hate.
Yeah.
And you know, I learned. I know as a good Buddhist, I'm not supposed to do that. But at the same time, you got to be honest with what you're feeling, not pretend you're feeling something else. And it's like a box. I can't punch my way out of. I just see this hatefulness, and it's hard for me to say, well, these people are ignorant and they're suffering and they're acting out they're suffering by being this way. All I see is these are horrible people, and I have no sympathy or compassion for them whatsoever.
Yeah.
And I struggle with that.
Yeah. I'll say one more thing, but then I want to see if anybody else has a response. Has anybody has a response to that? Because it's a very it's a charged topic, and it's a charged topic for me. You know, even living somewhere like San Francisco, because I grew up in Kentucky, I go back there. I was in Tennessee recently for work, and you kind of get outside the bubble and you get exposed to it more. I was driving away from that store, going to another one. I had a couple of errands I had to run, and I remember sitting at the stoplight, and I kind of carried some of that just I wouldn't even call it hatred, but it was just this disdain for those people and those people like them and all people like them and all people who behave like that.
Gee, I can't relate.
And I'm sitting at the stoplight, and all of a sudden I realized, I was like, wow, there's nobody in the car. They're not around me. What am I carrying? Like, why am I carrying that experience? It's my responsibility at that point to put it down. And to not carry it. And I remembered something that my teacher at the Bruein Center gave us as a task, which was to have and he said that it came out of a Sufi practice, that it's to have well-wishing for everybody that you come in contact with. Or that if somebody comes to your mind that agitates you, to ask a blessing for them, that what they're really doing is they're asking for your blessing. Because they're troubled or wherever they are, is that they're asking for a blessing, and so that the posture is to have well wishing for them. And so I just said to myself, I said, I have well wishing for those people in that store that I encountered, and that just cut through that whole ammunition that I was like loading into the cannon, about to just like blast it off into space and start nuclear war over somebody cutting in front of me in line at Costco, And so that was how I worked with it, was just to ask a blessing for them, because I have no idea what their story was. You know, this pastor, I have no idea what his story is. I have no idea what kind of, horrors he might have encountered in his life that led him to be there. It doesn't mean that I'm going to allow it to happen. I'm going to cut you if you come over here. And I'll let John have that kind of an attitude, but at the same time, I want to bring that attention back in here. I think I've said enough. Does anybody else have something they wanted to say? Yes, thank you.
You mentioned, which I suppose is the foundation or a foundation of the discipline of Buddhism, about being present, kind of be here now. But it also says in science, let's say, physics, that no two objects or things can occupy the same space. So in the process of being here now, or attempting to be here now, what if that space is already occupied? And it's occupied by you. So, do you shove you aside? Do you displace you? Or, I suppose that's the practice.
Yeah.
To be in the same space where you are. But what do you have to say about that?
Who is the you that is occupying that space?
And who is the you that's trying to get to the space that you're already occupied, to be present?
Yeah.
So how does one be present?
There's a direction that we work with in Brema, which we refer to it as see, accept, and move on. And so I begin with just seeing that that's so, like that space is occupied. And so wherever I find myself to be, I guess I sit less with the who question or the who am I, but just wherever I find myself to be, whether it's I'm in complete stillness or I'm identified with my personality and I'm pissed off at this person at Costco. Like all of those are starting points. I guess I kind of related to your question more from the perspective of how do science and spirituality relate? So that I don't know that I would have an answer to your question of what it means to be present, but that really gives me a lot to go sit under the Bodhi tree and ponder. Is that, and my teacher gave me that several years ago, and I didn't hear him correctly at the time, but he was really giving me that invitation to work with what do science and spirituality, like where do they converge, like play in that space a bit. So that direction of see, accept, and move on is like I bring acceptance. I see like, oh, that's where I find myself to be, or like we were talking about previously, like I can bring acceptance. Doesn't mean like, oh, I accept that somebody's behaving this way, but I accept that that's where I find myself. I don't have judgment that like I'm over here or I'm here, but wherever I am, I just bring acceptance to that state, and then move on means take a conscious step towards being present. And when I'm present, my experience of that being present is that I know. Like, I know that I'm present, and then I don't have that question. But if I still have that question of, well, who am I, or am I present, then the step that I can take is to come back to the breath. And then to come back to the breath. And then come back to the breath. Until I have that taste. So, Lee?
This is a follow-up to your story experience and a relationship to Clint's question. So yesterday I was in Costco.
I saw that stuff you put in your cart.
And furthermore, my cousin and her 4 children, aged 6 to 10, who are in the area and I hope will move here, were coming to dinner. I haven't seen the children, and I saw them once 5 years ago. And my partner didn't possibly know that they were coming. Anyhow, and I felt like I needed a nap, so I was in a bit of a rush. So I'm through Costco very efficiently, and there I am going towards the door. Well, there's this, you have to check out, and there's this long line. And there's this little elderly Asian lady ahead of me with a cane, stomping along slowly in the middle of the aisle, so neither I nor other in the lane could pass, so there was potentially a reason. And I'm feeling annoyed, and feeling annoyed at myself for feeling annoyed. I mean, I have a hip replacement and some arthritis, so I get it. Anyhow, so we get to the elevator, and then she gets in the elevator, and feeling annoyed. Then she uses her cane to hold the door open so I can come in. But the story doesn't end there. Then there I am, and the door is starting to close, and somebody else is coming, and she uses the cane again. So my mind, you know what happened. I'm annoyed again. And then we get down to the next level floor, and so instead of she's at the front, she doesn't get out. She uses her cane to hold the door for everybody else, including me, to get out. So it's this. So it's the uncertainty about, and it's very Buddhist about, what does this incident mean? Is it good or bad that occurred to us in our lives? And two things to add to that: one concept and one suggestion. The concept is that as a management teacher, I came to see that happy people make good managers. And when you have a bad manager, you will generally... So part of it is if we become happier ourselves, so it's our Buddhist practice, loving yourself will help you to love others. And the suggestion is to read Jonathan Haidt's The Righteous Mind, subtitle, Why Good People Are Divided by Religion and Politics. And if you have strong conservative positions, which probably nobody here does, or strong liberal positions, which probably many of us here do, you'll find it disturbing, but very worthwhile.
Thank you.
John, thank you so much.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you all.
Are there any announcements? Sure.
Thanks, John, for being Uno today. Next week, we have Harley. Raise your hand. Shapiro is going to be talking about his 6-month trip to India, Malaysia, and Borneo to talk about his experiences.
Clint?
Well, I'll just put on my typical spiel. We have a project. We feed the kids in Larkin Street Youth Center. They're homeless young people, and it sort of puts them up there and take care of them. Once a month, you get together and do a really nice, fancier meal than they're used to normally. They really enjoy it. They love us being there. It's a wonderful environment. If anyone wants to be involved in that, just contact me outside in the social career, and I'll get your name and contact information.
What's the date?
Normally it's the third Saturday of the month. Because there's a conflict this month, it's going to be the fourth Saturday. But normally it's the third Saturday of the month.
John?
I have one. Speaking of Brema, not to plug Brema, but if any of you live in the East Bay over in Rockridge, the Brema Center is right at the corner of College and Claremont. And this coming week, starting today actually, is a week of free introductory classes. So if any of you want to drop into the Brema Center, it's an oasis of sweetness. And I had some of these that I put out on the table next to the tea.
We have a host.
I'm the host, so as you know, it's scone day. Please enjoy a scone and some tea, and we have a dana bowl. We asked for a contribution of $5 to $8 for the sangha. I'll be coming around and hitting you up for that. And then people go to lunch around 12:30. So if you'd like to join that group, just hang out by the door as I'm shuffling everyone out.
Yes.
I'm the coordinator of hosts, and we do have a need for a couple of more hosts to either take on a regular slot, which is once every 2 months, or if that's not possible, a fill-in position for occasional contribution. And if you have any interest in finding out what that's about, just speak to me during the social hour.
Okay. Seeing no new business. Let's stand in a circle.
By the power and truth of this practice, may all beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. May all be free from sorrow and the causes of sorrow. May all never be separated from the sacred happiness which is without sorrow. And may all live in equanimity, without too much attachment or too much aversion, believing in the equality of all that lives. Thank you for listening to the Gay Buddhist Forum. If you would like to hear several new talks per month and be notified of upcoming speakers so you can participate live, please subscribe to this podcast, like us on Facebook, and join our mailing list by visiting gaybuddhist.org.